Good evening.
Good evening.
Y'all see the preacher take his coat off?
All right.
It was gonna be a while.
It'll be a hot lesson tonight.
I'm joking. I am not gonna say it's gonna be a short lesson, because every time I think it's gonna be a short lesson, it goes longer than it should have. But, Joey made a comment a couple of weeks ago about me finding some obscure women. And classes here.
Obscure with?
Obscure.
Obscure.
Ones you might not think about, let's put it that way. And I had intended, and I even said last week, that would be the last one in the Old Testament. Well, I changed my mind. I got to thinking about one that I just thought can't really go past. And it's one that we probably think about at times, but when we think about her, we think about what someone else did. And I'm kind of being a little obscure here myself. And once we get started, you're going to know the story. And the urge is going to be rushed to the end. But be patient. It comes from 1 Kings 3:16 through 18. And we're talking about, I titled it The Mother. I kind of wrestled with the title today. I started to tell the two women, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this mother. And I want to address her as a mother. And we're going to look at some things, and we're going to look at part of it and understand it, break it down a little bit. Because what we really are looking for is to understand this mother and what she can show us. Now, two women who were harlots came to the king and stood before him. And one woman said, "Oh, my Lord, this woman and I dwell in the same house, and I gave birth while she was in the house. Then it happened that the third day after I had given birth that this woman also gave birth. And we were together. No one was with us in the house except the two of us in the house. And this woman's son died in the night because she lay on him." Now we're going to stop here. What do we know? That's the first thing we know. Both of the women were harlots. Both of them had a son. And one of them's son died.
And how did two harlots get obvious in front of the king?
That's something we need to learn. And that's part of it. Because what's the first thing we think of when we think about a harlot? Your first deal. How'd they get an audience with the king? So the first thing we need to learn is just because somebody's a harlot or something that we think that is deplorable and everything does not mean they should be dismissed. Solomon did not dismiss them. I kind of looked at this point with some different harlots. Look, or people would consider harlot. Genesis 38:13-14, it was told to Tamar, saying, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she took off her widow's garments, covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in the open place which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Sheila was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. Who's the father-in-law there? Who knows the story? Judah. What does she do?
Dresses as a lady of need.
Dresses as a lady of need, plays a harlot, and conceives a child by him, a son. What does he do? One, he hadn't kept his problem, but promise two, when he finds out she's pregnant, he's going to put her to death because she's broke her vow.
Judged her harshly.
Judged her harshly. Then what he had to do?
Judging himself.
Then he had to judge himself. And he had to be harsher on himself. He had to say, she's more righteous than I. And there's a point there that many people misunderstand. Did he call her righteous?
No.
No. He just said, she's better than I am because I've created this whole situation. I put her in that place. And she ended up being the matriarch of the tribe of Judah that led to the kings. So much so was she respected that David named one of his daughters Tamar. And notice this, and Joshua spared Rahab the harlot, her father's household, and all that she has. So she dwells in Israel to this day because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. In Ruth chapter 4, 18 through 22, we read, now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begat Hezron, Hezron begat Ram, Ram begat Amminadab, Amminadab begat Nahshon, Nahshon begat Salmon, Salmon begat Boaz, Boaz begat Obed, Obed begat Jesse, Jesse begat David. Why is this important at the end of Ruth? Who did Boaz end up with? Ruth. Who was his mother? Matthew 1:5 tells us, Salmon begat Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begat Obed by Ruth. Obed begat Jesse. Can people make mistakes?
They did make a mistake.
Can they be redeemed? Do we see how Rahab was originally outside the camp, but then would be brought into the camp? Because one man didn't dismiss her just because she was a harlot. And what does the New Testament say about her? By faith, the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe when she had received the spies of peace. Well, does that say she's righteous or?
No, it just says that God uses.
God uses,
He's no respecter of person, so he used her to further the line, just like he used the Philistines.
but did her lie lead to her redemption? Was the lie, let's put it away, was the lie marked off as being okay, or was it just that it was forgiven? That's what I mean by led to redemption. We can make a mistake that can actually put us in a place where we need to be found faithful. Notice likewise was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? I don't think James is meaning that her works made the lie okay. I think he's meaning that her statement of faith that she gives, that she knows that God is with him, that God, the God of Israel is the true God, it's going to destroy that city. She's trusting them to deliver her, led to her redemption. And not being lost with the rest of the citizens of Jericho. What's God trying to tell us?
He's the judge and we're not.
He's the judge what?
He's the judge and we're not.
He's the judge and we're not. That's the first thing. What else is he trying to tell us?
That people that we might consider bad people can do very good things.
People we might consider bad people can be redeemed by God. They can do very good things.
Things that we see are ugly, he sees as beautiful.
Well, the sense, okay, I understand what you're saying. Let's fix it this way. Just because somebody's down in the manure don't mean they can't get cleaned up.
Yeah, I doubt that she was encouraged to remain a harlot.
No, I doubt. And here's the other thing that I'm trying to get across. With all these women, Tamar, we know why she went into harlotry. We know why she committed the act she did. These others, we don't know why. We don't know what their circumstance in life was that they may have thought this is the only answer I have. In fact, we know that's the thought of Tamar is, hey, I'm not going to be given his son. I'm not going to have an heir like I'm supposed to have. So I'm gonna go get one from him.
You know, in current society, if a young person runs away, especially a young woman, the chances of her becoming a prostitute within a certain number of hours are high. So, and that's today in the United States. So, not that it's okay, but life circumstances do sometimes affect people's decisions.
And this is why we're told in Matthew 7:1, not to judge. Not to judge the thing as being wrong, but don't judge the person as being unredeemable. That's really the context of that. There's people who say, this person. What happened with the prodigal son?
He came, God ran.
Came to himself.
Huh?
He came to himself.
He came to himself, but what happened?
Well,
He was welcome home. I saw one of these memes a few weeks ago that kind of got my mind leaning this way. It said, it didn't matter what the prodigal son did, he was welcome home. It doesn't matter what we do, we can always go home.
But you have to go.
But we have to go home. Yeah, and that was the point of it, huh?
That means leave something.
That means leave something behind, and that was the people's point. If you get out of position, if you go home, you'll be welcome home. But you gotta go. But too many times, what do we do as people?
drag the baggage back with us and say, welcome.
Nah, all right, let's put it in the shoes of the older son. Too many times we act like the older son. We're not going to forget what they did. They're still that same person.
We just get envious and jealous and conceited and think about, what I've done, don't.
And that's part of that, because if we can't put them down, we can't build ourselves up.
There are unfortunately many parents trying to act like the prodigal son's father, and they're welcoming their children home, especially their drug addict children, or any child that's been in trouble, and they're trying so hard to redeem them. And it's sad, and it's in almost any family, you have that kind of situation.
And I agree with you, and I think
You
a lot of
can't
the
give up.
problem, you don't give up on them, but at the same time, what did the prodigal son have to do?
Leave, go home.
He had to leave, go home, but he first had to come to himself. He had to make that decision.
The problem with drugs, though, is people have a lot of trouble coming to themselves when they're not themselves.
Well, that's true.
So it's a
It's
real
bad.
catch-22 unfortunate situation, because you just tend not to make a lot of good decisions when your brain is compromised.
And that's true. But too many times, people are not even letting them see themselves in the mirror.
Right.
And that's where, yes, in fact, I had a guy get mad at me because this was Member Church, and the guy was actually a preacher. I didn't know him personally, but I was approached about renting him a room because he was, quote unquote, trying to get cleaned up. And then one night I found all this drug stuff out in my trash can, not to be thrown away, but where he was hiding. And then when we got into discussion, I found out that he had wrote a bunch of bad checks on my bank account. The only good thing about it was an old checkbook to a closed bank account. And I had no real choice but to say, you're out of here. And when he refused to leave, I called the sheriff and had him come get him.
You had your opinion.
He hadn't repented. But then his daddy calls me and chewing him out for not calling him to help him get bailed out of jail. And I told him, you're as much as the problem as he is, because you keep enabling him. Somewhere we gotta say, look at the father of the prodigal son. What did he do?
Accepted.
He accepted him when he came home, but what did he do
He let him
when he
go.
was gone?
He let him go and he didn't follow him.
He let him go and he didn't follow. He kept looking for him. He kept looking for him to go home,
Looking down the road.
looking down the road, but he never sent anybody to find him. Tough love. Sometimes we gotta let them go through it.
It's just real hard if you have grandchildren involved.
I didn't say it was easy, Teresa.
I know people in that predicament.
I do too.
It's hard.
And it is hard. But we gotta think about what can we do and what can we make things worse. Me and Alex had an understanding. When he started driving, you get to hanging out with a bunch of boys and you end up drinking and driving and end up in jail, guess where you're gonna sit?
Learn from your mistakes.
You're gonna sit in jail.
Their parents might come and get them, and you still be stuck.
And somebody said something one to him, he said, that'd be the safest place for me is in jail. He didn't want me to come get him either.
Parents often find themselves enablers.
Believe me, one thing I learned about my daddy, he was no enabler. Oh, he actually had my car impounded one time for a month.
Wow.
This woman's dilemma, my mother. And I gotta say this, Ron brought up something. She was a harlot. How'd she get an audience with the king? That was brave. Even seek an audience with the king. What was supposed to be done in Judea with harlots? Stoned. And she actually went before the king to bed. Now, she pointed, and this woman's son died at night because she lay on him. So she arose in the middle of the night and took my son from my side, while your maidservant slept, and laid him in her bosom, and laid a dead child in my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to nurse my son, there he was dead. But when I had examined him in the morning, indeed he was not my son who I had born. Oh, aren't you grateful for DNA today?
Mother knew.
Mother usually knows, but proving it.
Oh, I mean, we just have pictures.
Yeah.
You don't need DNA.
You ever see some of them pictures? You ever look at some of them babies' pictures? Sometimes it can be hard to tell them apart in pictures.
Footprint.
Footprints. There we go. Why they start doing footprints since you brought them up?
In case somebody stole a baby.
In case somebody stole it, guarantee you get the right baby. I was about to say, when Alex was born, before we left the hospital, they gave us this little certificate, and right there was his little footprints. Why not? What happens if the nurses mix up the cradles? How they gonna do it? That's when they put tags on them, little ankle tags. What is this woman seeking? Well, first, she's wanting the king to give her son back to her. She wants to continue to mother her child. What's the alternative? If she don't go to the king, she can't get him back. She's letting somebody else have her child. And the problem is, neither woman wants to stop being a mother. Kind of thought about something on this line. She's wanting the king to redeem her child. They get it back to her. I kind of saw a parallel as I was looking at this today. The difference between us and this woman or this woman's child is we're in need of redemption, but we're more like the mother. And God uses his child to redeem us. So neither wants to stop. And like we would expect, there ends up an argument for Solomon. Then the other one said, no, but the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son. And the first one said, no, but the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son. Thus they spoke before the king. So here's this argument showing that both of them want the child. Why the other woman want it?
To stay close to the king, probably.
Well, she stole it already.
She didn't want the other lady to have one because she lost hers. I mean, if they were together, then they knew each other's
Yeah.
character.
And I think it was a little more she wanted still to be a mother. It's that point. It wasn't that she didn't want her not to have it. At this time, it's not about her not having it. It's about her having it. Before this, it's about her going on with the child. I'll give you the dead child. You'll think it's yours. I go on. I still have a child. Selfish motives there, but wanting to be a mother and not willing to do the right thing. And they got that motive, and that is something that we ought to realize. And mothers, don't get upset with me. But it's hard for mothers to let go of their children. You know, notice here in Matthew chapter 12, Jesus, in this context, is probably a year and a half into his ministry. And notice while he was still talking to the multitude, behold, his mothers and brothers stood outside seeking to speak with him. Then one said to him, look, your mother and your brothers are standing outside seeking to speak with you. Now, two things going on here. What are they doing?
People are saying nuts, crazy, and they're wanting to go, I don't know.
Not in this context. He's actually doing some teaching. His point there is, though, they're trying to interrupt him. His first miracle, what happened?
His mother wanted him to turn the water to wine in a wedding.
Yeah,
There wasn't his time.
as we said, wasn't his time, but his mother brought it up. What about later? Where's she at the cross? I guess I gave that one away. She's at the cross. She's literally at the foot of the cross. There was a lot of context. Now, she was his responsibility, him being the oldest child. But I think there was a lot more of Mary also still wanting to be the mother, holding on to the apron string, so to speak.
Helicopter mother.
Huh?
That's about the mother.
Helicopter mother. I don't want to get mad at me because she was always complaining about she was never blessed with children. And I told her, I said, I hate to say this, but I can see you interfering a lot if you'd had a child. And then I found out that her parents, everywhere they moved, they followed her. She was an only child. They got a lot of problems. It's hard, especially for mothers, to let their children grow. Fathers can deal with it a little better. And sons, for mothers, it's harder for sons to let go, our mothers let go of sons than it is for daughters. I remember when me and my mother were kind of at a bit of a turmoil, a long-time friend of our family, didn't realize I was in the next room. I was putting my shoe, getting ready to work. And she had said something to this woman, and Corey turned to my mother and said, sons are harder than daughters. She says, well, I'm going to tell you something. If you don't let him go, you're going to lose him.
My parents said a son is a son to a wife. A daughter is a daughter forever. And that's true.
Sons will still always treat their mothers with respect if they treat them right, and Mama didn't get to that point. We were getting to the point there was so much interference in my life that I was fixing to cut off the relationship. But she did after Corey explained it to her. And it's hard, and it wasn't that I wasn't going to, that I didn't love her anymore or anything, or didn't agree. It was just a point that, you know what, it's time for me to grow up. And I understood that. Titus tells us, or Paul tells Titus, the older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers good things, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste homemakers good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. Women tend to have an instinct of mothering. But do they fully understand what it means to love their children? Notice, the older women are to teach the younger women what it means. I think about Corey Holt. She was teaching my mother that day. What it meant to truly love me, she had to let me grow. Had to let me go. And sometimes we have to realize that. Sometimes we have to, as much as we don't want to, let our children follow their own mistakes. As much as we try to spare them. I think fathers are a little easier on that. We get frustrated, we just say, okay, fine. You want to beat your head against the wall, there's the wall. I tried to show you, I tried to tell you, I don't know what else to do. Hopefully they'll listen a little more than what we do. I was hard-headed. But this dilemma shows who is the good mother. I actually used the term godly at one point and changed it. And the reason I did that was because I felt like she had a godly love. Not that she was necessarily a godly woman in the way she acted, but the godly love. Because when Solomon has to make the decision, he's at a point, like I said, there's no DNA, there's no footprints, there's no ankle bracelet. There's nothing but this woman's word against the other one. There's no witnesses. Nobody else to say, this is her child. No, this is her. No one to say. There's nobody there. The only ones that were in the house were the two women and the two babies. And the king said, the one says, this is my son who lives, and your son is a dead one. And the other says, no, but your son is a dead one, and my son is a living one. I'm kind of thinking Solomon's thinking as he listens to this, okay, God, you promised me wisdom. I really need it now. One, I've agreed to hear this woman, so once I agree to hear her, what do I have to do?
Make a judgment.
Now I've got to make a judgment. I can't dismiss you once I said, okay, give them an audience. So he says, bring me a sword. So they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, divide the living child in two and give half to one and half to the other. What do you think people are thinking? together too well. What good is this gonna do? But notice,
That's one Solomon was wise.
well, this is where it shows wise, because he understood something they didn't, and something we ought to pay attention to. That the woman whose son was living spoke with the king, for she learned with compassion for her son, and she said, "Oh my Lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him." But the other said, "Let it be neither mine nor yours, but divided." Now here's where it comes in that other one. Well, if I can't have him, it should be. What is that really? One word.
He was angry,
Angry,
selfish.
jealousy,
Evil.
evil. First one I thought of was selfish.
That's it.
The other one is selfless.
That's where the word covetous.
Covetous. Covetous is always being selfish. She's angry.
If I can't have him, nobody can have him. That's
How
covetous.
many idiot? How many idiot people have we seen do that? I don't have another term for it. I remember church. Back right after I got out of high school. Her daughter was a friend of mine, a couple years younger than me. And she got fed up with her husband's drinking. He was an alcoholic. She put up with it for years. She finally said no more and kicked him out. And one night at the vacation Bible school, met another boy at church. We just left. We went driving about 2 blocks from our house. Heard a couple of firecrackers go off. At least that's what we thought. Later found out he had killed her and killed himself. Basically told people if he couldn't have her, nobody was going to, even though she wasn't trying to see nobody. That's kind of the attitude of the non-mother. If I can't have my child, you're not going to have your child. But the king answered and said, give the first one the living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother. How do you know that? She sacrificed. She would rather him live with somebody else than to be dead. She'd rather have to give him up than him die. So maybe this is going to be a short one. I better appreciate it. What's this woman teach us?
Talking something about love.
Teach us something about love, true love. She'd rather that child live with another than it die. She'd rather have somebody else be its mother and raise it than for it to die. Now, mothers might have to apply that a little bit to what Bruce said about relationships with sons. Better them to live with their wives than to be alone.
This comparison of this lady that would have let the child live with another woman goes with adoption. If you can't raise your child sufficiently in the right way, and you don't have the means or a husband, or that's the most unselfish thing you can do.
Too young.
And, yeah, or
I never
under
take care of it.
circumstances.
And that's why I point, because sometimes, and in the past, you know, when people have found out somebody had a child and they put up with adoption, they've always, how could you dare give up your child?
Yeah.
This woman would have gave up her child that had lived. And maybe that's along the line. Sometimes we see that as us being, giving it up, being selfish, but it might be a great love. We don't know how much pain this person's going through and having to make that decision. And they have to, you know,
He doesn't go away.
the pain doesn't go away, that child, and sometimes they never know what becomes of that child. And it bothers a lot of them. They work.
They're angry because you gave them away and they don't understand that you
Yeah.
did that out of love for them.
Well, their mother made the right call there, and Solomon had no wisdom to know what was going on.
And so I have no wisdom. We're thinking about the mother here.
Yeah,
We always look at Solomon, we look at the mother.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Because she made, and what else does that tell us? Always. Killing your child out of, or any child out of selfish need and trying to paint it out as being what's best for the child is a lie. It's always a lie. It's what's best for the child has got nothing to do with it. And that's what we all learned from the other woman as well. Honestly, folks, I think abortion is the most disgusting stain on our country. I saw something the other day that's been going around. I said it, I saw it again the other day, but it's been going around for a couple of months. And believe me, I don't agree with passing Roe versus Wade even in 1973. But the truth of the matter is, what they tried to claim was no feeling, no pain. Today we know better. They didn't have sonograms back then. They see what that child goes through now, those sonograms. They know it goes through so much pain. They know what stages of development the child goes, where it's at. There's no excuse for calling that a fetus today. No petition. It's a baby. It always was. They always knew it was. They just tried to paint it. And to hold on to that decision today is a greater atrocity than to pass it to begin. I've got friends in Kentucky. Both of them have 2 children each. Both are products of adoption. Now, one of them, who's a minister, they had to meet with both sets of parents and be approved by the parent, by the mother, before they could adopt. Now, what does that say about the biological mother? Wasn't that there weren't babies out there that the adoption agency made them have to meet? It was the conditions of the mother that before she let someone adopt their children, she had to meet with them. She had to know about them, know who they were, how they're going to take care of their child, how they're going to raise their child. The youngest one of 9 children, Ava, is just turning 2. Both cases, the mothers were 16 years old. And that's a crying shame. But what does that tell us about that mother that says, I want to know who's going to have my child? I want to see what kind of people are going to raise my child.
She cared. She cared deeply.
Cared deeply. Cared deeply. And they chose, both of them, to carry those children to term, and immediately chose to put them with the adoption agency in a state that probably has one of the highest abortion rates in the country.
But this all goes back to the morality of the country. What happened to the morals? What happened to the shame? What happened to the parents, watching over them, guiding them, trying to keep them out of it? Now it's just, oh, well.
And you're right on it, it does.
But, yeah.
But we gotta, the point I'm trying to make across is, and we do have a problem with the rule today being that. But there's always exceptions.
Sure, oh, yeah, there's definitely.
And when we find somebody that will make an exception,
Greg was saying we get it, they do for it. I mean, the sin, but if the other way to bring it to term is greater good.
and even if they're,
Child might be, come out to give some
and we,
good to the world.
and we can see that happen in the church. And as much as sometimes we want to chastise, we need to be encouraged. Remember, God hates the sin, not the sinner. Ron asked beginning with, you asked, the first question you asked was, how did a harlot get an audience with the king?
Yeah, because that's the Supreme Court. It would have had to come up through nobody wanted to make that decision, so that's how it ended up.
That's how it ended up there. But at the same time, what can the Supreme Court do today? How many cases do they refuse a year?
Yeah, but you're talking about a different system.
No, in that system, the
That's
king,
what they wanted the king's for.
It's a different system in the sense that one's politics and one could be elected. And nobody is gonna impeach President Solomon.
well, and that's true, but the thing of it is, Solomon could have easily said, he's the king. These are two harlots.
Divine providence, and God wanted this story in the Bible.
Yeah, so it.
This is an interesting story to be about.
Well, let's throw another one in there. Who's Solomon's mom?
Not the sweetest looking.
Bathsheba.
Huh? Yeah.
Did you call her Bad Sheba?
Sheba.
Not Bad Sheba.
Well, you think that might have had some influence on Solomon? Just to condemn them offhand is to condemn all.
Yeah, but they wanted to go from judges to a king. They asked.
But we also have to realize, what was Esther's fear? Let's put this in the
Being
context.
killed, walking in there without approval.
So she had to get
She
approval.
just walked in.
Right, so she had to get approval.
And she was the wife.
Right,
She could have got killed.
she was walking in without being called because she couldn't ask for an audience. But see, the thing of it is, we forget that they had to ask for an audience. It wasn't just like Paul said, I appeal to Caesar, and it was guaranteed. Solomon could have said, I'm not hearing this. Now, I agree with you, it's divine providence. But I think there's also that point of Solomon saw beyond just two harlots.
You got a history and a conscience.
A history and a conscience. And he was trying to do, and this woman helped establish his wisdom. Let's be honest, let's go back to the deal. What's the law say? What's the law of Moses say about a harlot? Stone her. And she comes in admitting she's a harlot.
But the same woman that come before Jesus, they throw before Jesus there, you know. She was supposed to be stoned.
Well, yeah, but what was her, how'd they know she was committing adultery?
How her at? Yeah, wouldn't know her around. But what I'm saying, he didn't say it, he said, go and sin no more.
Well, what does no more mean?
Go sin, don't do that anymore.
Don't do that, you're guilty.
Yeah, you get it, but he forgave her and went on.
Well, I don't know that he forgave her because I don't see any repentance there. He doesn't say that. What he did was say they wanted her condemned to death. And what did he tell them? Okay, y'all want to condemn her to death? You without sin, you cast the first stone. What did the law say? Who was supposed to cast the first stone? The ones that called her, the witnesses.
Them.
There we go. Them.
Them.
What were they supposed to do with the man? Stone him too. If they were caught in the very act, who'd they catch? Both. What'd they do with the man? Probably a friend of theirs.
Not been one of them.
Might even been one of them. But I think she would have pointed that out.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that in the context. Because what Jesus did not tell them any sin. He's pointing out their particular sin. You're the witnesses. You're supposed to cast the first stone. If you don't have a sin in this, you cast that stone. People speculate all day about what did Jesus write in the dirt. If I had to speculate, I think he probably wrote the law.
The only thing the law says about prostitution is that a priest can't marry a prostitute.
And it says that, but what was people to do called fornication? What will you do with the fornicator?
Because it doesn't say anything else. The things that it says in the law about prostitute is not to make your daughter a prostitute. The priests are not to marry a prostitute. And that none of the daughters of Israel shall become a cult prostitute. Nor the sons.
Okay, but what about the sins of fornication?
So,
Well, but that could be a one-time sin. Or, that doesn't mean that she's a prostitute. That just means that she was caught in adultery or fornication.
The one woman that was caught in an act of adultery at the very little stone. We got to remember, yes, it tells that, but those things are quick because what did God understand about people? Why was a priest not to marry a prostitute?
because she was defiled.
Because she was defiled. In fact, what it says in Leviticus, that the high priest is to only marry a virgin. What is that? What else does that eliminate?
Someone's been married before,
Somebody that's married before.
or that somebody who has had sexual relationship, even whether they were married or not.
What happened if a man came before the judges and said, I married this woman, and I was told she was a virgin, but she wasn't.
Well, he get divorced.
Yeah, that was taken back.
They go back to her parents.
They were to call for the marriage blanket. And if the marriage blanket was clean proof that, and if she was not a virgin, her and her parents were to be stoned for lying to the man. But if she was, he was not to divorce her and remain married to her for life.
They didn't stone Rahab.
They didn't stone Rahab. And they did. Why? Why didn't they stone Rahab?
Because God wanted to use her.
She made them promise that they would spare her and her family before she let them leave.
And she wasn't a Jew.
Huh?
I said she wasn't a Jew either. She
wasn't a Jew.
She wasn't under the old law.
And stoned them.
I get the impression though, a lot of times they didn't follow the law.
A lot of times they didn't follow the law.
You
A
know,
lot of
it's not
times
like right now,
and that's what we're
laws
looking
on the
into
books
here
if we don't follow.
because the truth of the matter is when we look at things and we look at real life, what God said do in the law, a lot of times they didn't follow. I didn't say that they had to stone everybody. I didn't say they stoned everybody.
Yeah, I think there was.
I think a lot of times they did. But like you said, they didn't stone them. In fact, God told them, go back and get her. And what did he say about going back and getting a woman once she's been defiled after she's left the marriage? He said it's not to be done. We have to remember what God was trying to get across to them was that sin is not to be taken lightly or lightly. But we can't just throw out the king and say, well, you know, he had to hear everybody. He didn't have to hear everybody. And she was taking a chance. Go back sometime and read 1 Samuel and the Witch of Endor.
I think the lessons here are pretty good for what that teaches us.
And that's the point I'm trying to.
Also, the wisdom that God gave Solomon.
And the point I made was, again, we when you go into this chapter, most people, what do you hear about? What's the teaching? Is the wisdom of Solomon. What about this woman? She teaches us something too. She teaches us a lot. And a mother will take a chance on getting killed if it'll save her baby. Any questions? Comments? 940?
Yes.
If we can help anyone, anybody dash come on, stand on the Senate.
Hear the sweet voice of Jesus.